Everyone.
Good morning, Father.
Christ is risen.
Indeed, He is risen.
So, on into an immense back injury here because our particular insurance requires that not only do I see my primary physician, but that they take the x-rays instead of the back and spine specialist, of course, because how could they be trusted to take x-rays? So, yes, unfortunately, my primary care couldn't fit me in until this coming Tuesday, so we're still going. Otherwise, I would be sprightly. Maybe I'd be using this to do a dance routine after liturgy, who knows? But, which I have done. Olga can tell you. I've had a cane and I've done a dance routine in the hall, of course, not in church. But anyway, I do a great Sammy Davis Jr. impression too. But so I forgot my sermon on the printer, but that's okay because I have it mostly at up here. And when I don't, thank God, He supplies the difference. So, you know, Jeremiah. I was reading through the book of Jeremiah this week, and Jeremiah chapter 19 leapt out at me. And one thing that leapt out at me was, because this people has forgotten God, it has made this land into a foreign place. Wow. Ouch. Right? Because this people has forgotten God, it has made this land into a foreign place. And we are there, my friends. Another thing, and this would have helped for me to actually have the printed sermon, was from St. Cyprian of Carthage. And you could practice, so St. Cyprian's writing about 250 AD, right? So, not quite a century before the first ecumenical council, so a long, long time ago. And St. Cyprian is writing how physicians are competing with each other at this time for transgender surgery. Who can do it better? Yep, 250 AD. You got that right. Carthage, North Africa. They're competing with each other. Joseph lived in North Africa. He can tell you it's not quite the same, but they have other sins to replace these old ones, right? But remember that the church was competing. These people had given their lands to other gods, right? The heathen gods, which are not fake. The statues are fake, right? They're just stone. But the demonic angelic beings behind them, they're not fake. And St. Cyprian says basically this physician, that physician, they're trying to get lauded for who is more crafty in their profession and who's more successful in making transgender surgery, right? And so a lot of these actors, remember back then in a lot of places, actors were all males. And so a lot of them are like, hey, why do I just dress up like a woman? Why don't I try to become one, right? And then he said how the crowds would cheer them, right? The one who looked, the people who looked, the men who looked more like women, the women who looked more like men, they'd be cheered on, right? And the same thing with their surgeons too, their plastic surgeons. In 250 AD, yes, correct me correct. We're able to carry this out successfully. That is what the world looks like before God takes root. It is also what the world looks like, as we found out, after God has been asked to exit. And after we've invited other gods in. So another thing that leaps out at me in the book of Jeremiah is these passages where, and actually Jeremiah 19 again, but also if you go chapters earlier, that this people have sacrificed their children. They killed their children in sacrifice to Moloch, or actually to Baal, to Baal, and sent them through the fire to Moloch. So this is interesting because it almost is indicating an inverse trinity, right, of gods. And as we find out from Jesus, Baal, or Bel, right, like as in Bel and the dragon, or Beelzebub, is identified with Satan himself, the Lord of the Flies. And so, by the way, this coming week, Lord willing, we will be having a Made to Be a Kingdom coming out either this week or the following week. It's called Taking the Baal by the Horns. Instead of taking the bull by the horns, taking the Baal by the horns. One of the symbols of Baal was what? Bull. Yep. So in Wall Street, anyone can go down and see the bull, which the bull in Wall Street, by the way, is not that old, right? I mean, goes back to the 80s. And also in the financial district, we can see an ancient archway. ISIS destroyed the last temple of Baal and its arch, called the Arch of Palmyra. And it was rebuilt with sacrifices to Baal. Yes, I kid you not. A full service to Baal to open a reconstruction of this in the financial district of New York City, South Manhattan. Yep, ancient hymns to Baal, Beelzebub, the devil, where the financial district was dedicated to him. I want us to think about that. If you're pulling into New York Harbor, you see the Statue of Liberty. And by the way, there was Viktor Frankl once said we should have built another statue in San Francisco, the Statue of Responsibility, right? Statue of Liberty, other coast, Statue of Responsibility, because the two go hand in hand. But our country has been rededicated, my friends. I mean, we still have In God We Trust on the money, and that was only because the somewhat like 12 attempts at getting it off our money have failed so far. I don't know. I'm not sure if it would fail if they'd give it another try or two. Thank God they haven't. Also, thank God that our lovely state of Florida has In God We Trust stamped on our flag. I have honestly, I've never even thought of feeling patriotism for a state before. Now I'm like, I am. At least there's something like being preserved here. And we should not take that for granted, that when a lot of our land has been forsaken and rededicated to Baal, to the devil himself, that part of our land has not been given over. And I'll tell you the part of our land that hasn't been given over first and foremost. The one where we're standing in each and every one of your homes is a little church. It's a sacred place. I cross myself when I cross your threshold. And also when I pull away from it. Because it's a sacred place. Keep it that way. Don't give in and don't give up. No, over the next few weeks, my friends, this victory of Christ, we're not going to give it over. As you see in the icon of the resurrection there, and also in the one behind me and the bigger one behind the altar, the holy table, Satan is bound in chains. It's only people who can give him any influence whatsoever. Right? It's only us that can actually do his bidding. Only people who can. But not us. Not us. We are called to a higher calling. we are called to be raised, to be resurrected. Because Christ is risen as a first fruits. But also he's given that resurrection to us. We participate in it first and foremost with partaking of the flesh and blood of the resurrected Christ, which we will do this morning. But we need to carry that all into the week. Because indeed, we're not meant to be down and crippled in spirit or in body. We're meant to stand and rise again in the resurrection of the dead. But even before that our whole lives until then may be the first fruits of that. May God be bountiful to us, bless us, shine the light of his countenance upon us, and have mercy on us. Christ is risen.
Indeed, he is risen.